All right, we are live and we are excited to be here. I am Kitty Shamlis of Loving Without Boundaries, and I am here with Coach B, who is a beautiful part of our team. And we're excited to have an amazing conversation with you. Today is a very important day for Americans and possibly the world. It is Election Day here in the United States. And I cast myself and my two partners that I live with, we cast our votes a couple of weeks ago. So just to make sure our vote was counted and we didn't want to have to deal with the lines. But for all the folks that are out there, I just want to encourage you, if you haven't voted yet, please go out and vote. Our votes are very, very important this year. And I definitely like to be very neutral about politics. And I believe it's just like anything else. Our topic today is consent-focused communication. So I believe in your consent to cast a vote that makes the most sense for you. And that's what I did. That's what my family did. So I encourage you to go out there and vote for the person that you feel is the right person for the job. And with that being said, we just want to say welcome to everybody who is part of our community, or whether you're a new member or an older member. If you are looking for community, you can find us in our private space on Facebook. If you do a search for Loving Without Boundaries, Healthy Open Relationships and Lifestyle Freedom, there'll just be a couple of questions for you to answer to join our community. And there will also be guidelines that you need to follow to stay a member of our community, which is now over 15,000 strong. We passed the 15,000 mark, which is really amazing. So, and if you're seeing us on other social media platforms, please know that you can become a part of our community, or you can also go to my website and check out our podcast, Living Without Boundaries, which was recently nominated for Women in Podcasting, and other resources such as our blog and our newsletter, so that you don't miss anything, because we also are starting to do local events here. We have an event coming up in January that you can learn about if you come join our newsletter. So with that, I'm going to start to turn the mic over to B to get us started with our topic today, which is consent-focused communication. And B, take it away. I'm excited to have this chat with you.
Yeah, I'm excited too, Kitty. And hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday and welcome to our new members. It's really awesome to have you here in this. And yes, today's topic is also another important topic that we wanted to bring to you, just to show you some of the skills that once you start building, it can greatly contribute to your relational experience. And practicing consent in communication is one of those particular skills that can immensely enhance our fulfillment, our sense of fulfillment in our relationships, how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive our partners, or anyone basically that we communicate with, let it be our metamours, friends, co-workers, or parents. So what consent in communication is partially doing check-ins in the moment around timing or emotional availability. Like, for example, is this the right time to have this conversation? Do you have the emotional bandwidth right now to have this conversation? Or if not, then when would be a great time? So it's also about negotiating our boundaries in the moment. So setting boundaries and also honoring the other person's boundaries. If they say that, no, this is not a good time, it's like bedtime, maybe this, let's just pause a little bit and put up in this conversation, let's have it in the morning, for example. So it also matters who are we being when we negotiate and talk about consent, like what might be the tone of voice that we bring into the conversations, our energy, and are we able to stay empathetic to the other person's experience if they say that, no, this is not a good time, or no, this is not the topic that I'm interested about hearing, or maybe we bring in a frustrated energy or wanting to have the answers right now. And in a broader context, constant in communication also means having agreements around and revisiting those agreements, like what are we going to share about our personal experience of each other or our relationship with the outside world, so anyone else outside of our core relationship. And what practicing consent on an ongoing basis does is deepens trust and safety in the relationship, and the sense of connectedness, that we're a team, we can rely on each other, we're in this together. So it has many, many awesome benefits. And unfortunately, I've seen some blocks popping up in other people's lives and in my life as well. So I definitely have a growth area when it comes to practicing constant in communication, especially if I get overexcited, like positively excited, the floodgates are open and I just keep sharing. So sometimes I notice that it can create some discomfort in other people. So yeah, I definitely have some blocks on this pathway to embody constant in communication. The few things that I wanted to mention, it can start from the lack of skill set. Or for example, you don't know how important constant can be, like asking for that time availability or emotional availability. Or maybe you don't have an agreement with your partner or partners in your relationship around check-ins. Like, yes, I agree that that's the aim, that we want to check in with each other for availability. Or maybe we have an agreement around that certain topics are okay, certain topics are not okay to discuss, or before bedtime we don't discuss anything, but someone's unwilling to keep this agreement because they didn't intend to keep the agreement in the first place, or someone just hopes that the consequences if they break the agreement is not going to be great, so they just say yeah, of course. Or maybe someone just hopes that they will get off the hook, and maybe the agreement is going to change. I had a person in my life who continually kept agreeing to constant in communication, like what topics are okay for me to discuss. And I realized over a period of time that it was because they hope that my no is going to change into a yes. So it is definitely interesting what type of blocks can show up. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is sometimes we can feel this overwhelming urge, like I just want to share, like when I'm really excited or I'm frustrated or angry, like I just want to let it all out in the moment. Or someone might feel that I feel so overwhelmed or so anxious that I want the answers right now. And sometimes we risk starting to interrogate our partners about their date experience, for example, or where our relationship is going, when it's not the right time, it's not the right context, and they're not available at all. So these are just a few things that I've seen like over and over showing up in our work and in my life as well, that are in the way of practicing constant in communication.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, B. And this, I think this is a really important and beautiful topic that can often get overlooked. I think that there can be a lot of assumptions made, like, hey, if I'm in this relationship, that means I get to say whatever I want to say whenever I want to say it, which in some ways is an indication that there needs to be some boundary work done there, both in terms of not overstepping other people's boundaries and also in the recipient of that type of talk being able to say, hey, now is not a good time for me, and without having to justify why, right? So I think that this is a really important topic, and I've seen it in even my own relationships. And like years ago, before I had learned some of the skills that I turn around and help our clients with now, I might have been one of those people who's like, hey, we need to talk about this right now, instead of, asking the other person, hey, are you available right now? Is now a good time to talk about something that's really important to me? And then honoring that person's no, if it's a no, or honoring if it's a yes, and really making sure that both parties are in the best state of mind to be able to have that conversation. Because without that, we can damage our relationships, we can destroy our connection, we can ruin trust. Ask me how I know, not in my intimate relationships, but I've experienced that in a family relationship where it wasn't the right time, and guess what? Things went off the rails, and it really damaged that relationship. So we're not just talking about theory here; we're talking about real situations, both in our own lives and what we see day in and day out with our clients, when there isn't that respectful exchange and honoring the other person's boundaries and really asking permission, or making a request, hey, is now a good time to talk? And if not taking it personally, which can be very easy to do, and then going ahead and scheduling another time to talk. So I think this is a really important topic, B, and I'd love to give the mic back over to you.
I want to stack on a few things. What you mentioned, like what I also see popping up, and I've definitely been on the receiving end. I'm guilty of also overstepping like certain boundaries. For example, sometimes when someone having a difficult emotional experience, our partner, for example, or it's difficult to see someone else struggle, and we may want to just step in and solve the situation. Like the intention is great, and we can cause certain damage. So sometimes it's just a question like, would you like me to just listen to right now, or do you want solutions? So with
Mm-hmm.
this, we can like uncover the needs in the moment and not confuse them with strategies. So the strategy would be just jumping into fix immediately and really just want the other person to help feel better, but with, okay, I'm gonna step in and fix it for you, or I start sharing that I think this is what you should do, and with this we can really damage the other person's sense of safety. Others can feel dismissed and unsupported. So there's simply the checking question, like, what is it that you need in the moment? Do you just want me to be like a mirror, or just an inanimate object, or do you want to brainstorm solutions here? So this is a beautiful preventative measure. And the other thing that I want to touch on is the oversharing. So as I said, it can take a form of like someone is like really excited about an experience. Like I'm excited about my first date experience with a new partner, and I'm overstepping our agreement or the boundary that we negotiated, and I share way more in the moment that we agreed to. And this can really create distance in our relationship, because again, it comes down like the other person doesn't feel safe
Mm.
when I start like sharing a lot and without even asking in the moment. So there's just making another check-in that, okay, I know that we agreed to this, that I'm not gonna share XYZ topic. And I just want to check in that maybe is it possible that you're available to hear about this thing. This can create inadequacy and discomfort in the other person, and also overwhelm. And we can also induce with oversharing in the moment, like unnecessary fears in our relationship. And what else this can create, if we're, Kitty, you talked about like emotional regulation, so honoring people's boundaries in the moment. If I constantly run the pattern that I keep oversharing or moving beyond agreed boundaries, it not only can create damage in the relationship, but at some point it's gonna distill inside of me as well, like a sense of disempowerment. Because in those moments, it can feel like I'm out of control, like I'm not being able to keep myself to my word. So it erodes my self-trust, my self-confidence, and my self-worth as well. So these are
Mm.
just a few points that I wanted to touch on that can also show up when we
Yeah.
talk about something communication.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that you said there, B. And just to stack on and elaborate a little bit more on some of the really important points that you made, oversharing, especially when we're talking about consensual non-monogamy, is a really important topic that's in some ways unique to consensual non-monogamy, because if our partner just got back from a date, or they were away for the weekend on a little vacation with their partner, and maybe we don't want to know all the sordid details about exactly what happened, or what sexual positions they were in, or any of those kind of details, and they share it anyway, that can be very damaging. It can also go the other way. If we, instead of making a request about information, instead we make demands, like, you have to tell me X, and that maybe violates somebody's privacy. Maybe your partner's partner, meaning you're a metamor, it could violate their privacy. So there's lots of ways that either oversharing or demanding information is another sign that there's some boundary work that needs to be done, which is definitely some of the things that we work on with our clients. And there can also be, we talk a lot about our needs. Like our needs are not normally in conflict because they're all life affirming and positive and beautiful. However, we could have some values that are important to us that might not be as important to our partner. So if I value transparency, that's where I might have a positive intention of asking for lots of information. But one thing I want to say is intention, even though we might have a positive intention, and I love that you brought that up, B, the impact might not be what we anticipated. There could be a negative consequence or a negative impact where we might unintentionally hurt somebody, even though our intentions are positive. So just to give that example of if I have a high value of privacy, but my partner or their partner has a high value of privacy, transparency and privacy can be at odds with each other. Our values might be misaligned. So in communication, a lot of what is important is to develop empathy and sensitivity for the other person so that we are honoring their boundaries. So B, you gave some great examples of asking those questions of how can I support you right now? Do you just want me to listen, or do you want me to help brainstorm solutions with you so that you're really honoring that other person? Because without that consensual piece of that, we can kind of steamroll over each other and negatively impact our connection or damage our trust, and I see it every day. Sometimes even in my own life, I'm guilty of this, certainly in the past as well. But we also certainly see it with the people that we're honored to get to work with. But there are ways to navigate up and out of this as long as you can build your skill set and your knowledge and your competence in communication, because consensual non-monogamy and polyamory and open relationships, they require a higher skill set and to hone in your knowledge on how to navigate some of these very tricky conversations, these delicate conversations that can happen, so that you don't unintentionally damage or hurt those important connections. And one thing I can tell you is I recently did a reach out to different people that did not get the help that they needed, the professional help they needed. And I checked on them 6 months or even 7 or 8 months later to see how they were doing when they did not get the help that they needed. And I think it was 4 out of 5 of them were already divorced or separated or broken up. And the other person was not in a good situation either. Things had actually gotten worse in their dynamic. So it is really important to realize, like, we all have areas that we need to grow in and improve in. And when you're talking about coloring outside the lines of heteronormative monogamy, where it's already hard to be stigmatized and be part of the LGBTQ plus community, where people don't really fully see you or accept you, you stack on top of that maybe you don't have the skills at the level that you need them to be in healthy relationships, to raise your communication skills, like understanding the nuances around consent and communication. And it can really be a recipe for disaster. And that's exactly why we do these Facebook Lives, is to touch on some of that in order to serve you, in order to help you to figure out where in my life do I have areas that I need to grow. So I'll give the mic back over to you, B.
Yeah, unfortunately, not having yet built this skill set or not practicing it with intention, constant in communication can cause so much damage and so much pain, including like betrayal trauma. Like, Kitty, you talked about like not necessarily clear boundaries or pushing against boundaries. Like, for example, when my partner shares some intimate details about me or my struggles with a new partner, that can feel like I'm being betrayed. So definitely the trust being eroding in that relationship. And the other things that can take, like, is silently keep building in ourselves. It's not just the emotional state, but disempowering beliefs about my relationship, about myself. For example, if my partner did this, then it means that everyone is like that. So it can create like generalized trust issues, or it means that my needs don't matter. I'm alone. I'm unsupported. I'm misunderstood. I feel like my ghost. I ghost. I feel trapped. I feel like people just don't want to consider me. So the more we keep going down in these traps of not practicing these advanced skill sets in consensual non-monogamy, for example, in communication, the more we can contribute for these deepening beliefs that can stack on already existing, like for example, like unresolved traumas that we still carry on with ourselves. So this can be like a really painful path. But the good news is that it is a skill set. So this is what I started out with, and this is what I want to highlight again to stack on what Kitty you shared, that I wanna give you hope that these skills can be built from scratch.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, it's absolutely possible to work with a mentor or a coach or a professional if you realize, hey, there are some things that I don't know, that sometimes we don't know what we don't know, right? But sometimes we do realize there is some areas that we need help with, that we need to grow in. And I really want to encourage people, there is no shame in saying, hey, I'm a human being. I have some flaws and I have areas that I need to grow in and I could use some help. Right. I've definitely many times in my life reached out for help, whether it was with a therapist or a mentor or a coach. And I actually have many mentors right now, some of which I'm going to see on Thursday at an event. So, I really believe in finding the right mentor and the right help for you as you are learning and growing. You can think of it as just a way to shortcut it. Can you figure some of this out on your own by reading 5, 10, 20 books? Sure, but that's going to take a lot of time. And sometimes we may read something, but we don't know how to implement it, or we have questions along the way, or we get stuck. There's an obstacle that comes up and we don't know how to move past it, or we might put other things ahead of ourselves and our own emotional, mental, and physical well-being. But these are all skills that you absolutely can learn. So if anything that we're saying is resonating with you, if you realize, hey, there are areas that I need to work on, that I am ready to shine a spotlight and get those skills, then I encourage you to consider booking a call. There is a link I just put up. It's lovingwithoutboundaries.com/apply. That simply takes you into my calendar. If you do want to have a conversation to see if learning these skills, such as consent focused communication, healthy boundary setting, everything we're talking about, and you're looking for help with your non monogamous situation. I literally just spoke to somebody earlier where they've been having drag out vicious, nasty fights like every couple days that last for hours, that damage their trust and their communication. And I can pretty much bet that there wasn't that consent focused communication going on, because again, that's a skill that we can learn. And so it's really important to realize that we all have areas to grow. So there's no shame in that. So if you want to have a conversation to see if getting that type of coaching, being in a supportive community that cares about you and your success, that's deeply invested in your growth so that you get to live your most authentic life, even in the world that we live in today, so that you are able to build healthy boundaries in every situation in your life while you're also building your inner strength, your confidence. That's all incredibly important. Then I do invite you to go to that link, which simply takes you right into my calendar. There'll be a brief form for you to fill out that just gives me a little context for a conversation so that I can show up really prepared to serve you on that call. And then we'll simply have an honest conversation so that I can get to know you and your situation better. And if I feel like we are a fit, we can talk about putting our heads together to come up with a game plan to have you get the help that you need. But if we're not a fit or the timing isn't right, you have my word that I will let you know that, and I will give you resources and do my best to steer you in the best direction for you so that you get a lot of clarity and value with our time on that call. So it's a win-win either way. So anything else you'd like to add there, B?
Yeah, the questions that I prepared, again, the
Yes.
set of big questions. So question one is, what are your triggers around consent in communication, or what do you find most challenging? For example, receiving unsolicited advice or navigating privacy or transparency preferences. Question two, when asked for your consent in communication, what does it mean to you? How does it feel for you? How do you respond internally? Do you feel seen, valued, significant, or maybe something else coming up for you when you're asked for your consent? Question three, what would you be most curious about shifting in your skill set and approach to consent in communication with your partners, if there's anything that you would like to shift? For example, feeling more confident and grounded when negotiating communication boundaries, or crafting like empowering beliefs that this is something that enhances our relationship if I keep practicing consent. So what is it, something that you would like to shift around consent? And question four, what empowering beliefs would you like to embrace to support consent focused communication moving forward? For example, as I said, consent enhances communication, or it's okay to take time for me or my partner to clarify our thoughts and feelings before engaging in a discussion.
Those are great questions. So thank you for preparing those and for bringing this important topic to light here. So with that, we will leave it here and just say we are honored to be here to serve you. And again, if you are looking for a community, feel free to join us online on Facebook at the group Loving Without Boundaries, Healthy Open Relationships and Lifestyle Freedom. You can also listen to the podcast of the same name, Loving Without Boundaries. And for those in the United States, don't forget, if you haven't voted already, go out there and vote. It's really, really important, especially for people in our community. So with that, I will say bye for now, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.